and operations for P&G India. Uh, First of all, the event that we celebrated today was on P&G Shiksha, a journey that we have continued and started over the 2 decades back. And today we are celebrating a milestone which is impacting 1 crore lives of children all around the India, eradicating learning gap. Learning gap is a problem or challenge that this country is facing today. To elaborate on this, right, 50% of grade 5 students today are not able to read grade 2 text. So when you understand this and imbibe this, you realize how big this gap is. What P&G Shiksha is trying to do is to identify this gap and do on-ground outreach programs which are preventing and eliminating this with partners on ground like EI, Pratham and Roundtable India. So in a sense, this is what we are trying to do in P&G Shiksha, and the event today was just, creating awareness for this and also celebrating the milestone of impacting 1 crore lives.
Right. This one's for you.
Amrita, which language would you want me to?
No, just wait.
नहीं, which language? Because a lot of channels I see are Hindi.
English and Hindi together.
आप लोग का हिंदी इंग्लिश है?
Hindi is also good. You can mix Hindi. English
Okay,
is good.
okay, cool.
This year's campaign at the annual Upsub Primary School with P&G Shiksha highlights the emotional side of learning gaps. Why was it important to bring this out?
Yes, very important question. I feel Janki and I have now we've been associated with P&G for a while. We've had some very value creating relationships, especially at Pampers. We are consumers, lovers, buyers, also storytellers there. But when we really got to understand कि P&G शिक्षा जो उनका इनिशिएटिव है वो एक्चुअली गांव-गांव में जाकर इस देश के आई थिंक देश के इंटीरियर्स में जो इम्पैक्ट फैला रहा है, एक तो होता है आपका दैट यू बिल्ड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर स्कूल्स अक्रॉस द कंट्री सो दैट पीपल गेट अ चांस, स्टूडेंट्स गेट अ चांस टू एजुकेशन. और दूसरा होता है आई थिंक वीव गॉन अ स्टेप अहेड वेयर एक्सेस मिला है, बट एक्सेस के बाद बच्चे पढ़ पा रहे हैं या नहीं पढ़ पा रहे. एंड स्टेटिस्टिक के हिसाब से आप बहुत सारे 5th स्टैंडर्ड या 6th स्टैंडर्ड के बच्चे 2nd स्टैंडर्ड की किताबें भी नहीं पढ़ पा रहे. काफ़ी देयर हैज़ बीन अ लॉट ऑफ रिसर्च व्हिच P&G इज़ डन. आई थिंक ये जो लर्निंग गैप जिसे कहते हैं, है ना, जो एक होता है जो आपकी उम्र के हिसाब से आपको जितना समझ आना चाहिए वर्सेस जितना आता है. तो अगर आप 5वीं कक्षा में हैं और आपको दूसरी कक्षा की जो किताबें वो समझ नहीं आ रही है, तो एट सम पॉइंट या तो आप सवाल पूछना बंद कर देंगे या स्कूल जाने में दिल नहीं लगेगा या पढ़ाई नहीं करना चाहेंगे. आई थिंक P&G शिक्षा ने इस समस्या को बड़ी अच्छी ढंग से समझा है. एंड आई थिंक अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स देव डन राइट. देयर इज वॉलंटियर एक्टिविटी, देयर इज एक्टिवेशन, घर पे ऐप्स दिए हैं ताकि बच्चा अपने आप समझ पाए कि उसको ये नहीं आ रहा है, उसको आसान कैसे बनाए. आज हम AI की इतनी बात करते हैं, अगर AI का असल हालांकि बहुत लोग डरते हैं उससे, बट अगर एजुकेशन में उसे सही ढंग से उसे यूज़ किया जाए, जो P&G शिक्षा कर रही है, रजत उसके बारे में और बता सकते हैं. आई थिंक वो आपको एम्पावर कर सकती है, वो आपको पढ़ने में और हौसला बढ़ा सकती है. तो उनका एक जो ऐप है उसका नाम क्या है, माइंड स्पार्क्स, जहाँ बच्चे अपने आप को एवेल्यूएट कर सकते हैं, गेम्स की तरह पढ़ाई सीख सकते हैं. आई थिंक ये जो है ना कि ये समस्या को समझना कि ये शायद बड़े बच्चे हैं पर इन्हें ये समझ नहीं आया है, उसको अगर हम जल्द ही समझ पाते हैं, अवेयरनेस क्रिएट कर पाते हैं और उसके बाद उसे कम कर सकते हैं, वही इस संस्था की आई थिंक इनिशिएटिव है. एंड इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल इनिशिएटिव क्योंकि इससे पिछले 21 सालों में 1 करोड़ लोगों, बच्चों की ज़िंदगी बदली है. एंड आई फील लाइक one child has just infinite potential. So when you speak a crore lives, you're talking about a crore families, right? तो इसीलिए आज हम एक साथ यहाँ पर एकजुट हुए हैं to be able to firstly really appreciate and congratulate you, Rajat.
Thank you.
And your entire team for the wonderful work you've done with P&G Shiksha. And also to be able to take this initiative to all of you जो घर बैठे इसे देख रहे हैं, क्योंकि एक तो है जितना वो कर सकते हैं वो कर पा रहे हैं, पर अगर आप लोग भी इससे जुड़ जाएं and you again amplify this or go back at home and try to sort of be more present and understand your child. अगर learning gap है उसे हम एज पेरेंट्स कैसे फिल कर सकते हैं. आई थिंक वो जो अवेयरनेस है वो आज के इवेंट से हम क्रिएट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. एंड इट्स अ ग्रेट ऑनर फॉर जानकी एंड आई टू बी सॉर्ट ऑफ बी एबल टू टॉक अबाउट दिस वंडरफुल इनिशिएटिव. हम इसके बारे में बात कर सकते हैं, प्रचार कर रहे हैं, पर ये लोग जो गांव-गांव में जाकर इस देश में आई थिंक एक्चुअल इम्पैक्ट कर रहे हैं, it is really really commendable and it gives me great joy कि ना सिर्फ मैं उस म्यूज़िक वीडियो में एक हिस्सा निभा पाया बट जानकी and I can also be before even Rajat sees it like self-proclaimed ambassadors to really go and take this message and share it with many friends and people across through our parenting community which we heavily sort of are very committed to building at the Indian Parent Board. So this feels so beautiful and organic and thank you Rajat for this beautiful event today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jackie, this one's for you. There's a lot of pressure on parents today to ensure that children perform well. How does this pressure impact the way we respond to a child's learning struggles? Based on your experience and takeaways from today's P&G Shiksha event, what's your perspective on how this has evolved?
Repeat the question. Sorry.
There's a lot of pressure on parents today to ensure that children perform well.
Yes.
How does this pressure impact the way we respond to a child's learning struggles? Based on today's experience that you had from the event, what's your perspective on this?
So, like I said at the event also, there is a lot of pressure. Pressure is continuous. Pressure is constant. But I feel as parents, and it is so important that हम ये pressure, we don't kind of fall prey to getting everything right and being perfect, but really being present for your child at home. P&G Shiksha is doing their bit, but it's very important that it's work for the children is done hand in hand with teachers, with parents, with P&G Shiksha. So really at home, moving away from perfection. How do we move away from getting everything right to really to the emotional side, focusing more on the emotional side of learning, focusing more on the empathy, provide that safe space to your child. The child should feel safe enough to come home, make mistakes and be okay with making mistakes at home. Imagine वो घर पे आता है और आप continuously उसको टोकते रहते हो, ये क्यों किया, वो क्यों किया, ये गिराया, ये नहीं, why you not being able to learn this or that. Instead let them do what they want, let them finish what they do, and then maybe really ask him that, can we try this again together? I'm here, I'm happy to help. So really changing communication and there has to be a shift in energy, I think, at home, right? And that begins with parents. And even as co-founders of the Indian Parent Pod, we really, why this this beautiful initiative really resonates with us because we feel the same, we talk about the same things in parenting, that how can we raise ourselves better, to be able to raise our child better. How can we let go of correction and really focus on what the child really wants, and that happens only when you listen to the child, when you observe his cues. It's not going to happen if you're continuously going to correct him and not observe his behavior. So yeah.
Now he had the words to express, and he was also understood. Others besides his mother could understand him. He felt heard, he felt seen. So I feel that the confidence of the child, when there is early intervention, it changes by leaps and bounds, and I think that's what P&G Shiksha does as well. Early intervention, finding out right in the beginning, so that you don't have to live with that learning gap all your life.
Here's a live example when parents supported what changed the game, right? With the labels being stripped off. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And being so intuitive. I think a parent is born with an instinct that is so powerful that nobody else has. And I'm so glad that you stuck with us instinct.
I also feel that it's very common that we miss these signs, hence it's so important just to be present. We have to, we expect our kids to be curious, ask questions. I think we forget as parents that we need to be equally curious to observe our child, to see what he's going through, what is he feeling, because sometimes they are not going to tell us that they're going through a gap. It's going to show in their behavior. They'll withdraw, they'll hesitate, or they'll just really go inwards. But to really observe that, you as a parent should be open and should be present to observe that and take timely action.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And to bring our conversation to a close, what we've really seen today is that learning gap isn't just about a missed lesson, it's about a child's right to keep it. So please brace yourself, because this is going to be a conversation where each one of us are going to answer with complete honesty. Are we ready? Okay, amazing.
Oh, black shirt.
Sorry? Super. And we're not going to be, and we're going to be parents who are going to drive this change to not get bogged down by these gaps, right? Now, first up, we saw in the film as well as in the polls how easily small gaps can go unnoticed. And you shared your personal journey as well with us. From a parent's lens, how real is this?
I can talk from my own lens first before becoming a parent. I'm a 4G kid. I've changed 10 schools, lived across the country, studied in government schools also, Kendra Vidyalaya. And I know when I moved from a Kendra Vidyalaya to a school at Bombay, it was very hard for me in every which way, right? It's a very premium school in northern suburb of Bombay, different socio-economic strata, a different board, different way of teaching. And until I was in my last school, this was in Andaman and Nicobar, another, I thought I did reasonably well. I was very interested in sports. I used to always do well in my class. And I came here and realized that, okay, this is a larger pond, it's a sea you've come to, and everything felt different. And I did not know how to articulate it. And at that point, I didn't understand. It wasn't my job to understand it. I was 13 years old. But I think those 3 years in Bombay were slightly hard for me. And it's only when I kind of reached junior colleges when I was able to finally find myself, find friendships, find why education is so important. So I felt that learning gap, right? And I don't think our parents at that point had the access to also I think we come from some amount of privilege where we have access to information, the internet, some amount of backing now that you build a base for yourself where you can think about the emotional needs of your child. I think to give credit to our parents, they probably were thinking the child is well fed, is secure, that's good, right? So I don't think my parents at that point could really understand, they cared. But I think learning from that today, we are very, very cognizant here. What I can really give to my child is just a safety net. Not to say that we're trying to be perfect parents. We make mistakes. I mean, I make mistakes more often than not. Yesterday there was something which happened with me and my child, and at that moment I chose to then 10 minutes later go and repair it and like really hugged him and apologized to him. I don't think that would have happened with me and my father, but you've learned over the time, and what I can only give him is, like, if you notice, all of us, and I might be generalizing, but whenever there's emotional distress, would run to our mothers, right? Fathers for everything else, but mothers for emotional distress. And we want to change it together, we should, like, both our kids should feel that my father can be as capable of handling my weak moments and tough moments as my mother. And I feel if we can do that as parents at home, it makes, I feel, eventually what we are talking about at Shiksha is bridging the learning gap, right? Lessening the learning gap. वो learning gap, अगर आप घर पे आप support कर सकते हो या समझ सकते हो अपने बच्चे को, I think it'll be much easier at school. If the child doesn't feel dumb about asking a question, doesn't feel dumb about being judged, I feel that confidence if I can give. And whilst I understand like the learning gap is mainly academic, I feel there are learning gaps in many spaces. Like there can be a vocabulary gap, there can be a confidence gap, there can be a curiosity gap. And it's up to me as parents, how can I really support my child to feel capable? That when he goes to school, he wants to go out and like really embrace. So it's, while that is structured learning, he goes with a lot of self-belief and emotional steadiness to be able to embrace that structured learning.
That's so well said, and not underestimating what a father can teach their child at all. Like, we do so many of these conversations and so many of these workshops that I host. And sometimes the fathers don't even show up because they don't think that they are incrementally value adding or they can support in bridging the gap. So I'm so happy that this is a conversation that we're having where we're talking of bridging the gap collaboratively. Rajat, over to you. You're a parent and you're obviously closely involved with the work Shiksha does. How do you see this intersectionality play out? Does the work that does that work, especially if you're a father yourself as well, does that have work to do with it?
I think, and like I just said at the start, I'm a parent to an 8-year-old child. And to be very honest, learning gap is universal. I have felt it. We just heard from Nakul, he felt it, right? He's seen, and so does my child. And I can relate it with an example which happened with me and my child a couple of weeks back, right? He comes back from school and he's like, I don't understand a concept in science which he said that how are things mixed and then how can we separate them, right? I don't think I'm able to understand this, and hence I don't like science. I don't want to study this subject. I don't like this. I don't want to do that homework. And like Nakul just mentioned also, and it's also sometimes identifying that gap, right? Identifying it, and then how can you make this fun, engaging for the child as well. And the activity that I did, which was very simple activity, right? I took some water, salt, mixed it up, and just put it on the gas stove and said, okay, just let the water evaporate. And right? It was the salt comes back, right? And then water on a steel plate, you are collecting water back. And that moment, right, was as close to as the emotion that you saw in the song, right? From not going to school to everybody goes to school. It was exactly that aha moment, and since then he's come back and said, okay, can we separate it out using another method? So I'm also learning some of those methods myself as I do that. But that to me just tells us that learning gap is not just that we just hear. It's actually universal. We just saw the stats, right? 50% of adults have seen or felt, being left behind, and more than 50% of grade 5 students today in our country are not able to read grade 2 text. This is from the ASAER report of 2024, and it just hits you hard once you internalize this. And as P&G Shiksha, what we are trying to do is to lend a hand to both parents, teachers, and the entire ecosystem to erase this learning gap. And it's a long journey, right? I mean, still today there are 50% of these students who need help, and hence, we look, to erase this, and also look forward to support from all the allies on the journey.
And as you guys will go along in your parenting journey, you're going to become better students. I can just say that from experience, because you will have to be on top of your game. Next time, अगर experiment learn करके नहीं आए, तो फिर then be ready. Like you will be part-time in or on your way back home checking, okay, how do I do the same thing again? And you'll be surprised that your child would have already read up about it or researched about it, and you've got to have a one-up. So guys, brace yourself for what's coming. Janki, to you, how hard is it? Like, there's just so much pressure, there's so much noise. Like, how do you, like everybody wants, and this is a very Asian thing as well, like best school, best grades. The first question that a parent asks another question, "Acha, aapka beta kaun se school mein jata hai?" I find it most irritating. But, how does the pressure impact your ability as a parent to see these things?
Firstly, I feel that the pressure is everywhere. The pressure is constant, and especially in today's day and age, with technology, with information, with social media, with everything you have everything available at the click of a button. There are comparisons, there is, your milestones that you have to hit, like you said, best school, best, So I actually feel that the definition of parenting, being a good parent today has changed a bit. It's about having everything right and doing everything right, And whilst that is good, in some way, I feel that when we keep chasing getting everything right all the time, chasing that perfection all the time, what we really forget is to just be present and see the child for who he is, is he actually enjoying this, you know, like, and we've gone through that, you know, there was a phase when we are like, ये क्लास में भी भेजना है, चलो फुटबॉल भी करना है, लेगो भी करना है, जिम्नास्टिक्स, डांस, very slow, you know, soon I realized that I am actually making him do things that I want him to be on track. You know, acha, these kids are also doing, so we have to. All his school friends are going. But, you know, like, much later we realized that, wait, he's not enjoying few things. There are some things he's great at, some things he's not. Why are we pressurizing him to be a certain way? You know, so I feel that, just like, and I also feel that, like, we go through, like, as kids, we have gone through it, you know, like, learning gaps have been there. Firstly, normalizing the fact that learning gaps happen, exist with everyone. It's not a disease. You know, all of us go through learning gaps. It's okay to have learning gaps. You know, like for me, if I had to give my example, I was terrible at maths in school. You know, I just couldn't understand numbers. And I somehow managed to kind of pull through to the 10th standard. I was the captain of my house, and you know, and then I had to give my math exam. And I scored 69 marks in my paper, and my best friend got 96. And I was just shattered, you know, not just with the marks, just feeling that I am not good enough, you know. And trust me, that feeling of not being good enough still stays with me. Today also, if you have to, you know, I've traveled the world with my bag, performing everywhere, making money, buying a house, you know, doing all these things with money. But when it comes to calculation or making an invoice where I have to, you know, I'll always call Nakul, what's the percentage of this if I have to cut TDS? And it's really stupid. But the thing is that I have a fear of numbers. And it stayed with me. You know, even today, when we have to talk about investments, I will always kind of, you know, just run away from.
I hear that so often.
Yeah, I feel like, and when the same thing happens to your kids, we feel that this is just a phase. You know, like you said, that 74% of parents feel that early development, early learning difficulties is actually just a phase and they'll get over it. But ऐसा होता नहीं है, you know. So I love the fact that P&G Shiksha is really focusing on, you know, finding those gaps. You know, there are lots of families that are underserved, which don't have the access to these learning tools, and to really identify those gaps early on. You know, identifying early on, and then kind of working with kids on it. You know, through different apps, through your role-based learning, your role play, through kind of group activities. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's only when you intervene, you know, when the kids kind of, you know, they get the confidence that, you know, I can do this. But for that, it's very important to kind of connect with them not through learning, not through academics, but emotionally. You know, really creating that safe space at home, you know, through P&G Shiksha. You know, are they really lagging behind? They're struggling to read a book. Okay, let's fill that gap.
And I have to like remind myself something that comes to my mind actually very effortlessly. I feel like someone once told me, and I reiterate it to my children even today, there are no bad students, there are bad teachers, right? Because every child can learn. Sometimes this gap widens and we need intervention. And Janki, what you said was so beautiful. What was early intervention plays such an important role. One is identifying the gap, and then of course early intervention, right? Nakul, how do you envision this intersectionality between educators, teachers, and parents as an ecosystem? How do you feel like they'll be able to navigate this?
It's a beautiful framework you've given actually. It is like a triangle, right? And I feel like students, when they go to school, they come with half the curriculum. And by which I mean, no child, you know, children don't come as empty vessels. They come with their own lived experiences, could be smaller, with their parents' access to education or not, their cultural influences, their socio-economic strata. So a lot of how you react with the world and engage with the world has already been somewhere formed subconsciously. So in school when you find structured learning, there's only that much a teacher can also do. And if you really travel to the interiors of the country, like I was sharing with friends at P&G just before this, we had the good fortune of traveling to Himachal and we went to some villages in Kangra Valley. Went to a village called Dhader. Went to Angarwadi school there. Like, one teacher teaches everyone, like 20 kids, from 1st to 5th standard, right? So in that limited time, he's trying to teach everybody, and they all, like, we want to take a child and like sit there and understand how the rest of the country also studies, right? And you understood that all those kids came with their own sort of life, little experiences, biases of the families, and they all learned from the same teacher but learned differently, you know. And hence it is so important for besides parents and besides teacher, for there to be this third intersection which P&G Shiksha so beautifully is filling in. I hope more corporates sort of come and kind of take this ahead. It can't be just P&G Shiksha, because we've reached a crore, right? It's a huge number to reach out there, and you'd agree with me, Rajat. Like when I saw like what they come and do is identify कि यार क्या समझ नहीं आ रहा है, यार क्या feel हो रहा है, वो चीजें बात नहीं करते. So I feel this intersectionality is very important, and like which something we keep reminding to ourselves that what we can really take care of is we can't take care of the other two things, but we come from some amount of privilege. Everybody sitting in this room, if I was safe to assume that, is at least give our children, don't need to give them the best of everything. Honestly, they don't need the toys in the world and things to distract their mind. All you could give them is some amount of time, and it differs for different people, depending on your own situation in life, right? But if you do have time, like maybe move away from that cell phone. And I say this as a reminder to myself, sometimes, you find yourself doing that with the child around. And just give them time, because if you fill that vessel with love and confidence, I think they'll go into these structures just willing to fail, willing to make, maybe ask a question which may not sound intelligent. And वही तो देना है हमें, क्योंकि बाकी काम तो स्कूल और P&G शिक्षा कर ही रहे हैं. So as parents, the least I could do is, just fill them with this kind of just amount of confidence.
And I love how he gave that Angarwadi example, which is, I don't know how many of you all have tried the key and lock thing outside, which was so amazing. Like I went there and there are just so many different keys, and each of our children just represent that. We just don't know which lock that key will unlock. So don't give up on them just yet, guys. If you haven't, then please go check that out. It was very interesting, very intentional. Even the 7 stones, right? Is balancing the stones. Sometimes, you get a stone in the middle, which is a little curved, and it doesn't let you layer on top of that stone. And if you just replace that stone with a one that will provide a proper base, you see how the foundation can build so effortlessly. I absolutely loved. I have to give like 100 points to the P&G team for thinking about those intentional games. I'm most definitely using in my workshops because I absolutely love that part of the game. Raja, this year obviously is a big milestone. 1 crore children is no mean feat. I think, like Nakul said, I think a huge round of applause and a pat on the back for you guys is absolutely commendable. It's absolutely commendable to stay true to what you started 20 years ago to kind of reaching this number. How are you ensuring that the impact on each child is also positively enabling them? And what does it take to create this impact? Like, what's the formula? If there is one.
Thanks for asking this question, first of all, and also thanks for sharing your experiences and books. What started 20 years back is a long journey, right? I mean, if you reflect back and see, and we are having chat with few folks, I myself joined 15 years back, and at that point in time, Shiksha was a campaign was to create access to education, right? Build infrastructure in schools. From there, as the access improved, the program also changed and identified an opportunity area, which was the learning gap, right? And since then, the program has been doing this over the years to ensure that children, when they are coming to school, they have the access, but the bigger part, which is the understanding and building that learning, is also something that we are focused ourselves on, right? And you asked me a formula, right? I mean, I'll try and maybe attempt it, right? I don't know if that's the formula, right? But first and foremost is actually to create awareness of this gap.
Thank you so much for being on stage with us today. It was an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you. Okay, now that's fun times. We're gonna get the part where the parents dread the most, or itki thodi kam practice hai, so we have more fun. We're going to do a PTN meeting with the both of them. So let's see how they fare. Please come here. We're preparing them. We're actually preparing them well. Are you guys ready? Okay.
It's just so much nice. It's so much nicer to be at the other side of the PTN, because I used to be worried as a child to go with my parents to these PTNs.
Trust me when I say this, you will be more nervous as a parent. I have been to many, and it is quite something. Because आपको पता नहीं है, you know, it will kind of play back when every time that the teachers make feedback, shit, this is like exactly what I have heard as a child, and now it's coming back to me as a parent. So brace yourselves. Okay, guys, that's a fun part for you guys as well. I'm just gonna read out the instructions. You guys both have these placards right in front of you. We're going to play this quick game, which is who's more likely to, and you all can, you know, turn it around basis the question. And guys, all of us in the audience, I want you all to participate as well. And how are we going to do that? We are going to share QR codes, which is right there, or the URL that you see, and then put in the code that comes there, the hashtag code that you see. I'm just going to wait for everybody to scan that QR code or join in through the link. So you all can also be part of this live question that we're going to have, like a fun game that we're going to be part of. Okay, tell me when you guys are ready. Just put your phones up so I know that you guys have all scanned the codes and you all are all logged in. Yes? Super. So let's go. It has to be fast, huh? No thinking.
Okay.
No thinking. It has to be spontaneous. It has to be fun. It has to be honest. Okay. Who is most likely to get irritable when teaching your child and it takes a few attempts to explain a concept? I love the honesty or the chemistry. I don't know honesty or chemistry. Okay, let's see what audience. The audience agrees. Guilty as charged. Okay. Who is most likely
What's
to...
like, so the audience is voting for?
Us
for themselves.
They are voting for themselves.
Oh, sweet. So I'm with you guys. That's good.
Okay. Who is most likely to relate and remember your childhood and the areas that troubled you?
A lot of childhood trauma there.
Yeah.
I hate mine.
I'm waiting. Has to be the trauma.
See, everybody has trauma.
अरे मैंने hit किया यार.
Some people
I've done some
don't-
inner work.
Some people just don't accept it that it's trauma.
Listen, I don't know why like trauma has mine. I don't get it. I think mostly the dads have to be blamed, right? We should rename trauma. What do you think, Mansi?
I think that it doesn't need to be renamed because the dads have given the ma the trauma.
The ma.
Nice one.
Okay, I mean I'm not sure my partner will say that.
Okay, but very important, and I'd like to, with all the fun games, I think I'd really like to emphasize on a number here that really needs attention. Overall, half of the adults recall feeling left in particular subjects. They feel left behind in particular subjects during their school years. So it was a third-party survey that was conducted, and adults have felt this. And this is, you know, when we do a lot of these workshops, we see a lot of adults speaking up, and we see how they feel like every time a word is, you know, said to them, which kind of triggers them, and then they project that back onto their child. And every time that word or that trigger happens to them, they just become uncontrolled, right? Because these labels have been so hard to erase. Think of this as like, you know, we all as Indians get these dabbas and then we try to reuse those dabbas by putting it in hot water, then trying to peel off the jar, you know, peeling off the label. कभी वो label आसानी से निकल जाता है और कभी उसको कुरेद के हम निकालने की कोशिश करते हैं और तभी वो नहीं निकलता है, right? Childhood trauma is like that. how we're doing this. Okay, coming to the third one, audience brace yourself. Who is more likely to think that learning gaps today can impact a child's confidence for life? Who is more likely to think that learning gaps today can impact a child's confidence for life?
Both of us.
Yeah, all of us. Okay? And actually this is so interesting because 74% of parents perceive early learning struggles as just a phase, underestimating the long-term risk to a child's future. So I feel this is so critical that we're all identifying that these gaps can be hard to fill. Okay, the fourth one, who's more likely to worry about whether their child is truly understanding concepts or just memorizing?
Neither, I think.
Neither actually,
Neither.
yeah. Has the child eaten food? That's the answer.
Yeah.
But concepts no, where as long as they're emotionally taken care of and they feel happy and they feel confident of themselves, we both will be okay.
I just feel that like learning is beyond just memorizing things. Like you said, it's more about understanding. So if you truly understand something, it's good. You don't need to like go crazy about memory. We haven't reached that phase with our kids yet, but I think
Yeah, we're pretty. Yeah.
slowly and
I
steadily.
think शिक्षा का मतलब ही ये होता है ना. हाँ. I think unfortunately some of us, most of us, like growing up, have not had that kind of education or that kind of rigor or discipline to it. जहाँ सब कुछ आपको rote learning करनी थी. But I think it's changing now, and if as long as we can pass that on to our children कि पढ़ाई समझे, दुनिया समझ लो, भूगोल जो है उसमें आप दुनिया को समझ रहे हैं, मैथमेटिक्स है उसमें आप दुनिया को समझ रहे हैं. It'll be a different way of looking at things. So memorizing, I don't think either one of us would really care about.
Right. And I think concepts could even be value based, right? It may not always be very different. So sometimes when children don't get a concept, it will be just very, very difficult as a parent to understand, especially if they're younger. As they grow older, the school pressure obviously kicks in and it's very, very difficult sometimes to be part of the ecosystem, yes, yet hold your own fold, right? The belief system that you may have. And to add to that, 30% of adults experience negative labeling at school. So every word that you say when your child does not get a key concept is leaving so much impact on them that every time that you're trying to re-explain that concept, guys, please be very, very careful because it can leave a long-term impact on them. Okay, coming to the last question before their PTM is over. Who is more likely to get competitive about their child's school performance?
I don't know about the school performance, but he is competitive in life. Okay, whether it is a game of paddle or a board game or anything. So I'm guessing it's going to be him.
He's the monitor.
He's the monitor.
And how do you deal with that?
I just let him win and let him feel okay, let him feel good.
Okay, Nakul, how are you going to do that if you
Yeah.
will you let your children win or not? Because that's also important.
So what I do typically is, I'm a huge believer in sports and art is very important for kids, right? So I make sure, because the younger one is very young, I take Sufi, my 5-year-old, to every sport I play. And I want him to see me at my best and worst. I want him to see when I'm winning and I want him to see when I'm losing. And hence I have to be at my best. I think sport teaches you losing with dignity and wanting to congratulate the other person more than anything else. So of course, whilst I think it's very important to be competitive, but also remember it's only on the field, right? And then you walk away and you had a good game. So I think for me that is key. Like that spirit is very important. अगर वो spirit नहीं है जिंदगी में आपके बच्चे के पास, तो मुझे लगता है that you can also have a happy-go-lucky kid, which is fine. But I also want that to be able to sort of pass on that spirit of I want to do my best. Right? That's it, my best.
And I think that spirit comes when you just don't tell the kids to do this, go play the sport, go play football, go do gym. They need to see that their parents do it. In our case, it's him, and he makes sure that he's there for every sport that he goes for, and he takes Sufi along, and he also goes for every outdoor activity that Sufi, goes for, whether it's a park or whether it's a sport, and he sees that his dad does it, so I have to be, and he absolutely loves his father, so he wants to be like him. So yeah, kids really take on everything that you need to model that for them.
Yeah, and I love that the fact that you said that you let him see you win and lose, because I see most parents often making that mistake of letting the child win, always thinking chota hai, usko jeetne do, chota hai. Then when the child grows up, they've never lost, they've never faced defeat, and they find it then just so hard to accept defeat.
In fact, we don't even congratulate if he wins or if he does well. We're like, did you have fun? Was that effort? Like, did you enjoy putting in the effort? And he's like, yeah, I think I enjoyed myself. And we don't tell him, you did well. I think it's very important for them to be able to build this self-esteem. And going back to the music video, I think that again, like if you looked at Boy, I think there was so much self-doubt, there was so much, and I have gone through that, I know that, right? I feel it is all we can do as parents, as first allies, is to be able to fill our children with hope and confidence, and that we exist and we will love you no matter what you've done in life, right? So whilst it's beautiful that the education system takes care of one bit, P&G Shiksha comes in and takes care of a massive, like identifying where the child needs help. But I think as parents it's very important to give them just that confidence and love that you'll be loved no matter what.
That security and that circle, that first circle, if that's really tight, that can really help insulate a child's heart. So thank you for sharing that. We've had a fun little PTM with the new parents. Now we're going to do some serious business. So I'm going to invite Rajat back onto stage because he's the one who's driving the P&G Shiksha. So we're going to have him back up on stage. Until the parents stepped in. They enrolled her into public speaking classes, they made her speak in front of the mirror. The only thing they didn't do was just give up on her and ensure that the stars and moons don't run away. Any guesses who that girl is? Okay, you guessed it very soon. Okay, yes, that is me. For everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Mansi, the founder and CEO of kids.press.com, India's largest parenting platform, conscious parenting coach. The most important role that I play is that of being a mother of two. In my workshops, I've interacted with many parents, many teachers, many stakeholders across the countries and in many different parts of the world. And this conversation, when Han addressed, I'm going to ask each of you all up here on stage, what's that one word that has kind of stayed with you? Because, often in our workshops, these words become triggers for us, and we don't even realize it, that when somebody actually says that word, if you're a parent, you'll project it back onto your child, or sometimes it's the one reason that you actually get really triggered. Any word that comes to mind, what you were said or told to me? Yeah.
What's the one word which triggers you as a parent or as a child growing up?
As a child growing up, a word that is often told to me gets you.
शर्मा साहब के बेटे को देखा है?
भाई
So I've grown up across the country, and anyone here from small town India, they will totally relate to this.
Right? Okay. Super. You.
It's not really a word or a phrase, but it was always why, Shakuli. It's why. What is it? I was always the extracurricular driven girl, and my academics, I would be like, okay, just about passing. And all my teachers felt like if only I put in the effort, I would do better. So they would always be like, but why? Why? And I would be like, I don't know. And I know in school that if I had had a little more time with grasping certain concepts, just because I was not at the same pace as everybody else in my class. I might be really good at something else, but I'm not at the same pace in a certain subject. I wasn't able to answer the why that my teachers had.
But here you are today, and we know the reason why you are here today, because none of us here up on stage can do the why that you can do. So over to you.
I think इसके पहले कि हम और कुछ करें, हम ये गाना जो इतना सुंदर बनाया है, हम सब साथ में गा सकते हैं? हाँ बोलना पड़ेगा, बता सकते हैं? I don't mind हाँ और yes. तो लिरिक्स बड़े एक ही लाइन आपको गानी है. अब सब जाएंगे स्कूल. Wow. Sur bhi hai yahan pe, very nice. Can we do it one more time? I'm going to do it and then you're going to sing just this line again, okay? 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 हाँ चलेगा, okay चलेगा. अब सब जाएंगे स्कूल. मिले लर्निंग के नए टूल. अब सब जाएंगे स्कूल. मिले लर्निंग के नए टूल्स. सब स्कूल जा चुके हैं वैसे यहाँ पे. But I also want to say that learning, I don't think happens only when you're in school. It can happen anytime in life. When I was 29, I decided career छोड़ देते थोड़ी देर के लिए ताकि कुछ पढ़ लेते हैं. So I have gone and studied at summer school music, which I never got to study in a classroom. So अब सब जाएंगे school is not only for school children. I feel this anthem, it can extend to anybody who is ready to learn and grow as a person.
Yeah, that's absolutely so true. Shali, when this song obviously now represents a voice of 1 crore children, and we have 1 crore number. Every time I say that, it kind of gives me goosebumps that what a milestone this is. What did it feel like you when you're in a position of power to lend your voice to something which is so meaningful? Like when you're lending your voice to this event.
Just to be part of this platform and to be associated with P&G Shiksha today is making me feel like I've checked a box, a small box, because I'd like to do more. But I know that this is one of the most fundamental and important things that we must extend to children. It cannot be a privilege. Education cannot be a privilege. Education and the right form of education that actually makes an impact. Education that fills in the gaps that are there in our schooling systems is what we need today, and we are eternally grateful for programs like P&G Shiksha for making that possible. And I am absolutely feeling whole being here on this stage and doing this today.
Thank you so much. And as we were sharing about the labels, this is obviously just not a classroom conversation and an issue, but a conversation which actually begins at home. And to help us understand that reality, we have with us 2 voices who are here today. And the most important role, out of the many roles that you guys have played, is that, of course, of parents. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Napul Mehta and Janki Parekh Mehta, co-founders of India. Napul, you are part of the film, and you're also. So, watching the story on stage, how did it feel to be part of this telling process?
Mansi, thank you firstly. If I had someone like Shalini singing for me every morning before going to school, I promise you I would have gone to school every day. But I found an excuse every day. Also, मेरी schooling 2005 के पहले हो गई थी तब P&G ने शिक्षा शुरू नहीं किया था. So there were days I didn't want to go to school, right? But jokes apart, I think we've been long-time friends of P&G and either been a consumer or partners with multiple brands here, Pampers being of course one of our favorites. But I think more than anything else, I think now having sort of come to this journey of parenting, this hits home like nothing has before. This feels closest to our lives. We have a 5-year-old and we have a 7-month-old. And the 5-year-old has just started going to school. So when we were shooting this video and when I spoke to the multiple people, they explained to me what this is about and what the Shiksha program is. I thought it hit home because the first part of solving the major problem is, I think P&G came and started building schools with the government as per the government mission. But I think our responsibility doesn't end there, right? पहला जो है कि आपने government अपने schools बना दी. उसके बाद to understand what is the problem, and the problem is you could go to a class And if statistics are to be believed, you could be in the 5th standard and you may not be able to read a 2nd standard का text, right? So P&G said, okay, they dig deeper and they said, शिक्षा में क्या करें? ये जो learning gap है ना, उसको कम करते हैं. I think वो सबसे जरूरी प्रॉब्लम है क्योंकि आप ढेर सारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बना सकते हैं, but if you don't identify what is the child suffering from, what are the issues, like why are you feeling less or why are you feeling labeled or why do you not want to show up or why are you hesitating? If we're able to understand that, which I think Shiksha has been able to do and touched 10 million lives, and 10 million lives is a huge, humongous number, right? Like we know being parents to do, which is our entire life now. I can't even imagine 10 million lives is actually not 1 crore people, it's 1 crore families, which is
Yeah, that's so well said.
which is a massive, outreach program. So to be able to lend a voices in some small way, I feel it's still a very small effort to what they really do on ground. But also to then be able to star in the video and then kind of understand that emotion, because when you're acting or you're singing, you're empathizing with somebody else, right? And to get a chance to do that and then to understand way more about that program, I feel like very fortunate. And I wish there are more ways in which we can actually, like on ground, be able to sort of add on to the amazing work which P&G has been doing over the years.
That's so well said. I think we're all partying here. Brace yourself with volunteers after. Janki, let me ask you. You watched the film. As obviously a youth, we all watched it before. We've seen it, in the wings. But as a mother, something just kind of moves. I had to literally not let the tears fall, so the waterproof mascara doesn't roll down. But what stays with you after witnessing this one romance?
Firstly, I just want to say that I'm feeling so grateful to be here, to be a part of this event, because whatever P&G Shiksha stands for is something Nakul and me deeply resonate with, when it comes to parenting. I think as a mother, when I saw the video, the first thing that really stayed with me is the struggle of the child, and the silence and the way the child withdraws and the way he hesitates, and then how he kind of transforms, when he's given that, given those tools. Because I feel that, and this is a conversation that me and Nakul keep having every single day at home, that how do we create a safe space for our child at home? How do we make him feel comfortable? How do we support him in the best way possible, besides, of course, giving love, And because that's what the kids want. They want to be understood. They want to be heard. And sometimes they may not have the tools to do so, and hence what P&G Shiksha is doing is so powerful that they're creating this ecosystem. There are so many families, so many children. Whilst we are trying to do that at home, so many families so many kids that don't have the access, or the support, or parents who can spot those gaps, spot those learning difficulties at home, and you all are creating this entire ecosystem of volunteers to support them and to help them, which is just so beautiful, and it's amazing. So I'm so glad to be part of this.
Right. And as someone once said, and I'm quoting, the child, do you know who's the child that is actually working hardest in class? Anybody? The child who actually comes last. Because for him to constantly feel that I need to bridge this gap, I need to be in the front, I need to work harder, to face the world with all those labels, that child is actually possibly working the hardest. And here we have with us Rajat, who's the brand operations head of P&G India. A program that's been running for over 20 years now, and obviously has evolved from access to outcomes and now addressing learning gaps. We see it so clearly in the film, Rajat, the before, the after, and what does reaching 1 crore children mean for P&G Shiksha?
I think, first of all, thanks for sharing your personal stories, right? It really hits hard. When you are in the program, right, you sometimes, don't know that how it's impacting everyone. But what you just said, right, it's a feeling of immense pride, right? 1 crore children, 1 crore families is something which I feel proud and every P&G feels proud of achieving. But at the same time, it's also a moment of great and just having to know that there is also responsibility which lies, right? Today also, the learning gap is a big problem. Almost 50% of students are facing this on grade, so the journey is just starting, right? And it's not a gap which is, too distant from everyone in this room, right? You've heard some stories there. I have my own story. I have a son who is an 8-year-old, and actually I live this every day with him, and it's hard, right? And even the kids are able to relate, understand this, and when you are providing them that safe space zone, and also the tools and enablers, you can create that long, journey for them, which will help them achieve their vision, their potential, and it should not be a setback, right, for any child. And that's what we are all here to do. And P&G Shiksha has committed itself to raise this learning gap. And I'm sure with partners like you and everyone in the room, and all the parents and teachers, we will be able to do that.
स्टील फोटोग्राफर्स बैठ जाओ, बैठ के लो. हेलो, ब्लैक शर्ट.
Okay, now
ब्लैक शर्ट.